You can be an advocate. You can be an advocate and hero for someone you may know that may be in a dangerous situation. We are really excited to offer this support to family and child and do even more for their organization than just the financial support that we do throughout the year. So I'm excited to have this webinar today. And I'm also happy that we'll be able to provide each of you with some important information that could help you perhaps personally, help a friend, help a loved one with some of the information that is going to be shared today. So it is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Christy Jenkins, Executive Director of Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center, to talk about the work of their organization.
Thank you. So I am going to share my screen. Just move there. I don't know why it's not coming up. There it is. Okay. Right. Can everyone see this?
We're seeing
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so I am Dr. Jenkins. I am the CEO of the Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center. I have been with the agency total time 18 years. So I have been here a very long time and have done just about every single job that you can do here. And it really is just my heart and soul. As you see the sign here, we are located right by Mercy St. V's. So if you're like, where's that at? I don't know where that is. We're right in between Mercy St. V's Heart Center and Central Catholic. So we are on a main hub, a bus route. So if folks don't have transportation, they can get to us really easily. So we started this organization in 1973, and so we have been in business for over 50 years, and we are a local nonprofit. We serve tens of thousands of individuals every single year, and we're funded by United Way, thank you, federal, state, local grants, foundations like Toledo Community Foundation, donations from folks within the community, and then we also have fundraisers. And so we are having a fundraiser on May 23rd. And so that is our big fundraiser for the year. It's called the Spring Luncheon. And what is unique about that opportunity is you get to hear from the people that we serve each year. And so you get to hear from the survivors who utilized our services and went essentially from a victim to a survivor. So our mission is really to wrap around families. We are the only agency in Northwest Ohio that treats the entire family when it comes to interpersonal violence. So we treat the victim survivor, the perpetrator, the children, any non-offending caregiver, and even foster parents or guardians, because as we know, within our community, a lot of grandparents are raising their grandchildren right now. And so we really take that to heart and really give them all the opportunities, the resources, and the skills that they need to be successful. And so because it's Child Abuse Awareness Month, I have a huge focus today on the Children's Advocacy Center. And but I'll talk a little bit about all of our programming, but I want to start out with that piece because I would say that's probably one of the pieces that folks are more familiar with in our community. And the CAC really brings the entire community together in a multidisciplinary team approach to find out who is being abused, what actually happened, what do they need to be successful and heal, and then how do we prosecute these cases as well. So huge need for our organization. So when you figure that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are sexually abused before they turn 18, that is really, it's startling. It's really, I don't know that you could walk through life and not know somebody who has been abused in their lifetime. And when we look at the statistics for domestic violence, very similar. 1 in 4 people will be a victim of domestic violence in their lifetime. And so it's happening everywhere. I think that a lot of folks think, oh, it's happening in that zip code, or it's happening in those neighborhoods, or it's happening to those people, and it's happening everywhere. You can't have statistics like that unless it's happening everywhere. And another thing that really shocks folks is that when children are sexually abused, 95% of the time they know and trust, that's the word there, the people who are abusing them. And so I know growing up in like the 80s, folks would say, oh, stranger danger, don't go by the van, don't take candy from people. But what they should have been teaching is the people who are more likely to offend you are people that you know. And so we really have to have a paradigm shift there and really teach our children how to keep themselves safe. And that's a lot of what we do here, because there are nearly 4,000 children every single year that are investigated by Children's Services in our community. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I'm going to have a strong focus today on the Children's Advocacy Center because it's Child Abuse Awareness Month in April. So this is so interesting. So folks will say, well, what is the CAC, which is the acronym for the Children's Advocacy Center? And if folks have questions, I'll answer them at the end of this. I think they put some time in at the end. So there was a prosecutor down south named Bud Kramer, and folks were and is someone going to get the people who are coming into because I'm trying to do both. Can somebody let them in? Thank you so much. Okay. So there was a prosecutor down south, and a little boy came into his office and he said, what happened to you? And the little boy looked at him and he said, don't you all talk to each other? Because this little boy had already told his story many times. So if you look at this image here, so a child makes an outcry to her teacher, right? Teacher, and this is even more simplistic than I say that it typically is, because what happens is child tells the teacher, somebody has hurt me. The teacher usually gets the counselor or the principal or another teacher or whoever. So they're 4 or 5 deep at school before they even get to law enforcement, children's services, those kind of folks. And so what the research shows is that a child will tell their story about 8 times. Now, think about that. You are a child who has been victimized, and you have to re-traumatize yourself every single time you tell that story. And think about a story you really like to tell. So if I tell Anika and I tell John and I tell Melissa, my story is probably going to be different for all 3 people, not because I'm being evasive or I'm lying or anything. You forget things, you remember things, like whatever. And so it was just such an incredibly flawed system to have this itty bitty child tell this story over and over again to all of these folks. So what happened was Bud Kramer got the idea of, when this little boy said, don't y'all talk to each other? Yes, we should. We should be doing that. And so they wanted a one-stop shop. So a child comes into the center, tells their story. It's digitally recorded, and then the other team members can hear it. So a child tells a person one time when they're at the center. And so that will go to prosecution, law enforcement, children's services, anybody else who needs to know that story. So available services at the CAC. So we have, I'm going to break these all out in the next few slides. So forensic interviews, medical exams, safety education, children who witness violence, trauma counseling, services for non-offending caregivers, and then we do a lot of community and professional education like today. We also have programming for stewards of children, which is teaching adults that the onus is on them. Because for a long time, we have put the onus on children. You can't do this, you can't go there, you can't, and just had children freaking out when adults could make a lot of good decisions to keep folks safe. So an example of that is if your child has drum lessons in the basement of a school and you're not allowed to go down there and watch those drum lessons, that's problematic. So you should be able to be there the entire time. No adult should be with a child one-on-one privately that is not their family. So think about how you can incorporate some of this stuff just into your daily life of how to keep the children that you know and love safe. Our child abuse prevention program, we do some joint hospital team meetings, presentations like this today, and then we also have a lending library at the agency. So we have a lot of different materials if folks would like to borrow those or just get some resources from us. So our forensic interviews, we are accredited through the National Children's Alliance, and we have 10 accreditation standards, and we become accredited, reaccredited every 5 years. And it takes a good year and a half to 2 years to gear up for an accreditation. That's how serious that is. But one of the pieces is that we have to have a child-friendly site. So we don't want a child going down to the police station or to children's services or a hospital and having this interview, because if they're at a police station, they might think, oh my God, I did something wrong. I'm going to be in trouble. If they're at a hospital, it can be very sterile environment and just not welcoming. And so really having a nice, warm, friendly place for children to come in and be able to tell their story. And so we have a forensic interview on site. We have Lucas County Children's Services and law enforcement who do the interviews at our site. And everyone is trained in beyond the silence method of interviewing. So it's fact-finding, non-leading. We'll hold up in court, we'll hold up against defense attorneys. And we have 2 interview rooms. So one you can see up at the top is what I call our itty bitty room. So you can see it's like a child and an interviewer, and they have like anatomical drawings and they have coloring books and crayons, and it's also being digitally recorded, which we tell the children. We show them there's the camera, there's the microphone. Like none of this is a secret, because with child abuse, especially child sexual abuse, there's a lot of secrets that go on. So we want to be as open with them as possible. The bottom picture is a picture of our teen room. And so you can see it's far more relaxed. They're just sitting, somebody's in a chair, somebody's on a couch, and they're just having that discussion. And the middle room is the viewing room. So when one person is interviewing the child in one of these interview rooms, the other members of the team are in this viewing room. And so they can watch it on that television there and take their notes. And so that way the child is not overwhelmed by 5 people in this room asking all kinds of questions and the child feeling intimidated. And then we also our site is utilized by the FBI, and a lot of times they come down from Detroit. And because there's not a CAC in Monroe, like in between Detroit and down to us, and they typically come down for human trafficking and child pornography cases. So our medical exams, you can see this is our polar bear table. Again, meant to be child friendly. The kiddos love the polar bear table. And this was actually donated to us by Sylvania Southview when they did Dance for a Chance. And so something like this is an incredible amount of money that we could never afford. And so they rose the money, I believe it was like $12,000 to buy this table, and donated it to us. And we also have a PSANE program. So we do on-site medical exams. So again, they don't have to go to this ginormous hospital and feel scared or worried or maybe not even be able to find where they're supposed to go and all of the things. Everything is right on site with us. So safety education. So we are in almost all local public, parochial, Christian charter schools with our child abuse prevention program. And so what we do is we teach them feelings. We teach them the difference between a safe and unsafe touch. Sometimes people say good touch, bad touch. Sometimes bad touches can feel good. And so that's why we say safe and unsafe. Names and locations of your private parts, because people will give them the craziest names. And when you have been sexually abused and you're having a forensic interview and you are calling it something different and it can be misconstrued, that is one of the best things that you can do for your children, your grandchildren, is teach them the appropriate names of body parts. And I'll tell you a little story about this. We had a girl who came in and had been sexually abused by her grandfather. And what had happened was he was calling her vagina her pocketbook. And so she came home and she said to her mom, because her mom never taught her the private parts, she said, "Is it okay if grandpa plays in my pocketbook?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's your grandpa. Like, you guys can play like that. Like, I don't see what the problem is." And so she didn't have the skills, the tools, the correct names to tell her mom what was happening with her. Um, Definitely the difference between a secret and a surprise, and which is all that good touch, bad touch, like just identifying just how to talk to your children is imperative. What they say, how they preface things, because oftentimes victims of sexual abuse will tell us they didn't ask the right question. They didn't know what to ask. And so really helping our adults, because not only are we in these schools and we teach the children these things, we also give the materials to their parents and guardians as well. And identifying at least two safety strategies and two safe adults to tell if something is happening. And you know what is amazing about this program and what I love about it? We know it works because people come to the Children's Advocacy Center and say, "I told because I saw this program in school." I mean, you can't have a better situation than that. Children who witness violence. So oftentimes folks, especially our itty bitties, are in the crossfire of domestic violence relationships. And so what happens is we have a trauma counselor, Sarah Sweet, who has been with the agency now almost 16 years. And so she will do this program with them. It's trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy for children ages 3 to 18. She does about 5 sessions and just figuring out how to keep themselves safe, how to, maybe our itty bitties need to know how to dial 911, where to go if a fight breaks out, coping skills, just helping them to process the abuse. And then they're linked to helpful resources within the community, especially if they get into counseling and we say, "Oh, they're going to need more than 5 sessions." We're going to refer them to long-term services so that they can get everything that they need to heal. So part of our trauma counseling services is we also do trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy for victims of sexual abuse and physical abuse and neglect. And so Kelly Rupp is in charge of that program, also been here about 16 years. And so she does short-term counseling, so approximately 10 to 15 sessions. And they do a lot of the similar things within the Children Who Witness Violence program, but this is more geared toward the sexual abuse. And so at the end of the sessions, the child does a trauma narrative. And so we don't want to know the entire story because that's overwhelming and horrific, right? So we pick the first time, the last time, or the worst time. And we tell that story where at the end, the child becomes the victor instead of the victim. And so we figure out who that child wants to share that story with, because just because they're their parent or their guardian or the person who is in charge of them doesn't mean that they're appropriate to tell the story to, because sometimes that individual will freak out, they'll start crying, or maybe they don't believe that child. And so research shows you that the greatest indicator of how well a child will do after being abused is the parental response to the abuse. Okay. So we got to make sure that we're telling someone who is going to affirm that child and build them up and be a cheerleader for them. And sometimes it has been a coach, it has been a teacher, it has been a neighbor. So, and obviously we have releases of information so that they can share that stuff. But really, it is whoever the child feels safe telling that story to. So non-offending caregivers, this is so incredibly important. We never, ever, ever close out a non-offending caregiver at our agency. So if somebody saw us 10 years ago, they can call back today and get more information and their case is open. And they do, because what happens is their child is sexually abused at age 4 and now they're 14 and they call us up and they say, okay, we're having some sexualized behaviors. I'm not sure. Is this normal developmental stuff, or is this because this child was abused at age 4? And we get them back in, we wrap around them, and we give them the skills to continue to heal from this. So we're giving them support systems, parenting skills, we're educating them on what are signs and symptoms of sexual abuse. What is that normal developmental level and behavior, and helping them to recognize sex offender behaviors because, oh, the person at the youth league has really taken a special interest in my child and wants to take them places and do things with them. Is that a person just being kind, or is that a person looking for an opportunity or perhaps grooming my child? And really getting them some coping skills, because at the end of the day, they feel that they've done something. Even though they're non-offending, they didn't have any part in the abuse, or why didn't I see it? Why didn't I do something? And so really helping them to get the services that they need. Bob the Beagle. This is my fat cow. Look at that fatty. So he is our animal assisted therapy dog here. So for those of you who are familiar with the center, you know we had Nala for over a decade and she was so incredibly wonderful. And I have some pictures in the next couple of slides of Nala. Unfortunately, she passed away after she had only retired for a short period of time and she passed away. But it is so incredible to watch what happens when you infuse animal-assisted therapy with the trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, because kids come in and, we're strangers. Maybe they don't know if they can trust us or if they can tell us their innermost secrets or whatever, but they'll lift Bob's ear and they'll tell him. And like, how powerful is that? Or they want to disclose things, but they're starting to get upset and they start petting the dog and it just calms them down. So, oh, and I should say, Bob was trained during COVID. So for 2.5 years, he went through 4 classes to be able to be an assistance dog. So this isn't like a companion dog or a comfort and support dog. He is very specifically trained to be able to do therapy. So, love that when we infuse animals into treatment, that rapport goes right up. Like people just absolutely love animals. They're comforted, they're supported. Animals are so non-judgmental. They don't care what you look like, sound like, act like, what they want to be loved, right? And so they provide that sense of safety and really normalize the process. And you can see that's our Nala at the bottom there. She did such good work after over the decade that she was here. And so we're also we're also able to role play, do a lot of things with the animals. So if maybe somebody's a little rough, like they, are petting real rough or what we say, oh, like, how would you feel if somebody was doing that to you? So utilizing the animal in a teachable moment, which is really cool. And then the staff absolutely loves having an animal on site. So it really just improves our well-being as well to have an animal on site. So additional FCAPC programs, because I said I wanted to do a pretty big focus on the Children's Advocacy Center for Child Abuse Awareness Month, but we have a domestic violence court advocacy program. So we're in Lucas and Ottawa County, and Lucas County. The next day, and we're able to call them and say, hey, there's an arraignment today. We need you to come down to Toledo Municipal Court. We meet them there. We ask them, do you want a protection order or not? We explain what arraignment looks like, what a pretrial looks like, a trial. If they have any additional needs, do they need shelter services because they don't want to go back home, like they're afraid to go back home, or can they stay with a relative? We also do some assessments of how safe are you? So some lethality assessments to kind of see what is going on. And part of what we do is really helping them to assess their own safety. You should never, ever in a trillion years, ever tell a domestic violence victim to leave their abuser. And I know that's really hard, right? Because sometimes they're being brutalized and bad things are happening and all of that. What you need to do is safety plan with them. And when they're ready, they will tell you when they're ready to get out, because a victim is 80 times more likely to be killed leaving than staying, because what they've done is taken that power and control away from their abuser. And so that really amps the situation up. And that's where we see that sometimes folks do all the right things, right? They leave, they have a protection order, they're trying to like differentiate their schedule, they get a new job, they have a new address, whatever, and they still end up getting hurt because you're so likely to be hurt in a domestic violence situation. That's why police don't like going to domestic violence situations, because the emotions are so high and police are more likely to be hurt in a domestic violence situation than most other situations that they encounter. So we're also in Ottawa County, and so we have one advocate out there who goes between the two courthouses, because there's less folks out there that are going through the court system. In Lucas County, we see probably about 2,200 victim survivors every single year. And in Ottawa County, it's hundreds of folks out there. We have a Help Me Grow early intervention program, and some folks will say, okay, you're the only agency in Northwest Ohio that treats the entire family when it comes to interpersonal violence. How in the universe does Help Me Grow early intervention fit in, right? And what happens is we're treating kiddos 0 to 3 with early intervention who have developmental delays and disabilities. These kiddos are at an exponential rate of being abused because it's so incredibly stressful to have a special needs child and not know what to do, how to handle it. If you had a child that had some sort of medical condition and just screamed 24 hours a day, that would take a toll on you. And so we get in there and we help them coordinate services so that we can completely just help them to have what they need so that we don't get to the point of abuse. We also have a Project Access program, which we're partnered with Job and Family Services. And so this person is over at Job and Family Services for half a day and over here for half a day. That way, when folks come in to get food stamps, cash assistance, Medicaid, those pieces, and we find out that they're having interpersonal violence within their home, then we have somebody on site to help them. And so that is a really cool program where they're getting a lot of case management services because there's truly a housing crisis everywhere for folks who need low income housing. And so having folks to advocate for that and to help connect people to resources is really paramount. Long-term services. This is such a great program. This was born out of our regular services. So we would do 5 sessions for children who witness violence and 10 to 15 sessions for sexual abuse, trauma focus, CBT. And then we would have to send them off. And so we would send them off to community mental health or those types of things. And so law enforcement and children's services for years said, can you please keep them in-house? Can you formulate some kind of programming so that you can keep them? Because research shows that when you refer someone to another program, 50% will fall off automatically. They will not connect with another place. And so even though we had some great resources of where we could send folks, they just could not engage because sometimes folks don't have rides to places, they don't have transportation, they don't have money for bus tokens, and so it becomes really problematic. So we formulated long-term services, and so if we do those initial 5 sessions, initial 15 sessions, and we say, oh, they still need some more mental health. They need psychiatric services. Maybe the parent needs survivor to thriver, which is domestic violence intervention classes for folks who have left a domestic violence relationship. And so we have all of that. We have parenting, and we have a really cool parenting program where they will record the interaction between the parent and the children as we're teaching them so that we can go back and say, do you see when we did this piece here? How could you have been more effective, or what were your challenges when we were doing that? And we, like I had talked about psychiatric services in our area, sometimes it can take somebody up to 4 months to get an appointment to see a psychiatrist just because there's not enough. And so we have a psychiatric nurse practitioner on site, and she can usually get them in 1 to 2 weeks. So, I mean, that's another great thing about our services is that we often can get you in right away. There's no wait list. Very rarely would there ever be a wait list. And so we get that immediate services. And so we also have some case management in long-term services as well to help folks with just all kinds of things. So maybe they need help in working to get their children back, or they don't understand their custody paperwork, or whatever that looks like. And so helping them with that is really important. We also have a batterer intervention program, and we've been doing that for over a decade here. And we check the recidivism rate, and our program is 26 weeks long. Because what would happen back in the day when I first started doing this work is that folks would say, oh, this person needs anger management. Well, domestic violence is not an anger management issue because the person who is an abuser typically isn't beating somebody up at their work, beating somebody up at the gas station, beating up somebody at the grocery store. No, they save it up and they take it out on their family. They do it behind closed doors in their own home. And so some would say they're the best at managing their anger because they can do it everywhere else, just not there. And so our program is 26 weeks long. And when somebody completes the program, our recidivism rate is less than 10%. And so when you look at the research literature, 1% of batterers change on their own. Those are not good odds. So if you have 100 people, one out of 100 changes on their own. And if we graduate 100 folks, 90 of them are not reoffending. And we've been checking this for over the past decade. So we're incredibly proud of our programming. We're incredibly proud of our data that we've been able to collect to show how important this program is. So I have a video here. So let me stop.
In the nation, there are 3 million reports of child abuse every year. The Surgeon General a number of years ago declared child abuse and neglect a national emergency.
When we think about 1 in 4 women being a victim of domestic violence in her lifetime, that's your mother, that's your sister, that's your neighbor, that's your coworker. So it's happening everywhere.
Family violence and child abuse, it doesn't have a particular face. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor. It's something that goes on in the community on a daily basis. And sometimes we don't even know about what's going on inside the families.
Family violence is also linked to things like teen pregnancy, decrease in graduation rate, mental health issues, and a whole host of other issues.
We are the only organization in Northwest Ohio solely dedicated to the issue of family violence, not only helping those who have already been abused, but helping to prevent violence from ever occurring in the first place.
We serve between 2 counties about 55,000 clients a year. So we provide domestic violence court advocacy, a child abuse prevention program within the school system. We're in all Toledo schools. We have a children's advocacy center, which we have a victim family advocate. We perform forensic interviews, a medical program where children who report that they have been sexually abused can come and have an examination. We have children who witness violence program, and we have the crisis counseling program. We have an animal-assisted therapy dog, and she comes to the center about twice a week and works with our survivors of abuse. Animal-assisted therapy is a great adjunct to treatment.
We could not do without on our services because a lot of times the police department is not a conducive place to interview children at. This setting makes the interview just a little bit more comfortable for the children, a little bit more comfortable for the victims, and that's really what it's all about.
It's important we have a place where children can come and can have joint investigations, have police officers, caseworkers, attorneys, guardian ad litem, all members of the multidisciplinary team participate, so children only talk about it once, opposed to having to talk about it several times.
We are funded here by a number of grants that we receive at the local and state level. We are also funded by United Way and Lucas County Children's Services. The problem being that many of these grants are on a step-down process. So we may be at 50% this year, and next year we'll be at 25% until we're completely taken off of the grants. So there are always holes to fill every single year, and it's only through the generosity of the community that we're able to continue to do what we do.
The Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center is one of those places where your money is well used. We have a group of people here who are compassionate and understand exactly what children are going through. They are experts at helping to set the children at ease, allowing the multidisciplinary team to collect the information they need in order to help protect the children.
This agency helped me and my family in a huge way. I was so intimidated by the court system, and it's hard coming out of an abusive situation. I was in mine for 15 years. I have 5 children. Feeling like I had somebody there for me that thought I was important, that cared about me and my children. It was wonderful. It's helped me get on track with the rest of my life. I've started school. I'm getting a job. My children are in school, and everything is turning out great.
We believe that society has the power to prevent family violence.
By working together to prevent violence today,
We can build stronger families for tomorrow.
To do that,
we need you.
We need you.
We need you.
we need you.
To do that, we need you.
So let me. I thought I had stopped the video, but I did not. Okay, pop that down there, pop this back up, and share this with you. Okay, so all right, so right there, that is my information. There is my email address, there's the website, that is my phone number to ring directly to me. We're also on Facebook. So I'll give folks a second to take a photo of this or write down the phone number, and then I'll clear the screen, and then I'll be able to take some questions. Everybody in gallery. Okay. Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat. Let me open it up. What questions? Does
I'll kick it off just in case anyone's being shy. Thank you so much, Dr. J.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about, and it was mentioned in the video with the lady that mentioned she had been in her relationship for a long time before she was able to leave. In your experience, I guess how often do you find it to be difficult for people to leave those situations? I know sometimes I know people say, "Why don't you just leave?" If that's the case, but it's always easier said than done. So I wonder if you could just touch on that.
Love that question, John. And what it is the research will show you that the average victim leaves a domestic violence relationship 7 times before getting out for good. So some people leave 1 time, some people leave 14 times, okay? And what happens is the more times that they leave, typically the less resources that they have, because they say they're going to leave the first time, and mom and sister and cousin and neighbor, and they're all wrapping around them, right? You get to 7 times and folks are like, whatever, like, you're not going to leave. I mean, you see it all the time, that they have been so incredibly isolated. And folks say, I don't understand why that person just doesn't leave. There's a million reasons. If I don't have an education, if I don't have a place to go, if I don't have any money, where in the universe am I supposed to go? A shelter. Okay, fantastic. What if the shelter's full? I mean, there are 1,000 reasons that I could tell you of why people stay. The number one reason is because they love that person, right? They just want the abuse to stop. They don't want to leave the relationship, that it's the father of their children, it's the mother of their children, whatever it may be. Because domestic violence happens across the board. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, non-binary, it happens all over the place. And so some folks are not documented. And so if you leave, I'm going to call ICE and they're going to come get you. I mean, there are so many reasons why folks don't leave a domestic violence situation. They don't want to break up their marriage vows. Maybe they have religious convictions that make them not want to be divorced. There are so many reasons. That's a great question, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions? Feel free to just unmute and ask if anyone has anything they're curious about or would like Dr. J to elaborate more on.
And any of the programs that I talked about today, you can get in touch with me and I will get you with that particular program and that particular person. Because anything that I talked about is available to anyone. Another thing that I want to mention is that our programming at the Children's Advocacy Center, so children who witness violence, the sexual abuse program, non-offending caregivers, all of those are free of charge because of our partnerships like the United Way. So they give us the dollars to be able to serve folks when they leave with the clothes on their back. they don't have an insurance card, they don't have money to pay for treatment. So folks will say, well, if you were here, they could go to some of the big community mental health in the community. No, because first of all, we don't have to give them a mental health diagnosis. Just because you've been abused doesn't mean that you have a mental health diagnosis. And if you don't have one, some of these bigger agencies, they can't bill for you, and so they won't be able to see you. And so that's why it's so imperative that folks get the services that they need immediately. So we can get you in for treatment while our case managers are helping to apply for Medicaid, are helping to apply for food stamps, are helping to apply for housing, all of those things. And so it's really important to have free services because they might not be able to get these same services out in the community. And so many folks here are very specifically trained, not only in trauma-focused CBT or trauma-informed practices. Many of us have been trained in EMDR. So some very significant ways to help treat folks. What other questions do you have?
I guess another I'll ask is, as we know, all of these federal changes impacting many organizations are very concerning. Is there anything that's kind of come on your radar that has you a little concerned, or just anything that you've seen from just the things happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single year when we put together our budget, and we're doing it right now, Anika and myself and Lila, they're both on the call. We put it together, and we typically will have a $200,000 or a $300,000 deficit in our budget. And we're a small organization. We have about 35 folks who work here. And like I said, we can serve up to 55,000 members of our community. Our child abuse prevention program, if we see 10,000 kiddos in the school system and then figure a couple of guardian, right there's 30,000, couple thousand in domestic violence, 1,000 CAC. I mean, you see how all of this adds up. So we're doing a whole lot with a tiny, tiny staff. And so we don't have this ginormous budget or those kind of things. But because grants diminish, they go away, we're on a step down. Maybe the climate is scary, like during COVID. Like folks were like, what is going, I don't know if I should donate money to anybody because what if I need the money for myself? And so we're always trying to figure out what that looks like. Now, is it more scary right now with when they were talking about a government freeze and those types of things? Absolutely, yes. And so we're always looking at ways, how can we do this? So we have the long-term services, we have some billing abilities, we have grants, we have foundations. And so just really trying hard to make sure that every single dollar is stretched to the maximum. I'm really proud, and I mean, Anika and Lila are both on this call, that our admin rate is incredibly low. Like we do so much within the agency on such a shoestring budget. And we are very good about cutting costs and just looking at how we can do more with less. And so I think that's a big piece of it, John, is like really trying to circle the wagons and make sure that we're doing everything possible to not only get those dollars, keep those dollars and use them in the best way possible. But yeah, it's a scary time right now. Very much so.
We have a question in the chat from Jackie. Do you provide long-term stay resources for families wanting to leave with nowhere to go?
Right. So what's great about our agency and us working with a multidisciplinary team is we do work with the YW, we do work with Bethany House. And so we do have those resources, even in other counties that we can refer to get families the shelter services that they need. You're welcome, Jackie. Anybody else?
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it.
You gave a rocking presentation, Dr. J. Yeah, all everyone's questions are answered. I don't know, I always have questions, but I know we're 5 till, so I want to thank you so much. I'll make sure in the follow-up we obviously have the recording. I'll ensure that your contact information is there. Dr. J will also be a panelist at our spring event, which you'll learn a little bit about here soon. So you'll definitely be hearing more of her. So thank you so much, and I'll invite Melissa here to close us out.
Again, thank you,
so
Dr.
much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jenkins. My name is Melissa Stevens. I'm a member of the Women's Initiative Board. I really appreciated your presentation, and there's obviously a lot of good information in there, and specifically reminding everybody that this happens everywhere. And it's happening around us, and we likely do know somebody who was or is a victim of abuse, and it's just something to keep in mind. So thank you for sharing that. We hope that everyone on the call found this informative, and we hope you feel more empowered and have found more ways that you can continue to support women and children in our community. That is the whole purpose of us putting this together, and why we want to serve with the United Way. So we hope you'll join us for some great events coming up, and these will benefit the center. So on April 23rd, we'll be hosting a wind down Wednesday at Poco Piatti in Perrysburg. And on Wednesday, May 14th, the Women in Leadership panel will be at the Imagination Station this year. So for more information about these events and to register, you can visit the Women's Initiative Facebook page. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoons.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Melissa. Thanks, Dr. J. Thanks, Tammy. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.